Hey, I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic, and this is the Real Critic Roundtable. For those of you guys who don't know, this is my second take, but that's all right. Um, this week we got a lot of stuff to talk about, but not to talk about politics. Why? Because we don't have a political movie on the show. But I did vote. If you don't see it right there you go. I voted. It's in.
Glad you voted early. I'm glad you voted early.
Voted early, and I called the voting people to find out, did they receive my vote, and they said yes. So they got it. They haven't counted it, but they got it. But if you also saw, I got on the wrong hat today because it is Lakers time. It is Lakers time. Now, this is the 1987 World Championship hat for the Los Angeles Lakers, where Magic Johnson won the Finals MVP. I'm saying Lakers in five, Lakers in five, Lakers in five.
That's an easy prediction.
I know y'all. I know y'all don't want to hear that, but they wearing their Kobe jerseys tonight. But let's get to the show. We got a 18-year-old Filipino girl searching for herself. We have a black father who's not quite sure if he is himself. And then we have a 40-year-old black woman who's kind of lost herself. I think I probably need to get myself some kind of therapy here or there. It's a yellow rose in a black box, and you only get the 40-year-old version. But before we do all that, we got the critics. And starting off is Katia Woods.
Okay, so first of all, I noticed that Reggie talked about the 87 team, not the 83 team, as you know, which my Sixers beat in 4 in LA, but we won't go there. Anyhow, hey, you brought it up. Anyhow, Katia Woods, Couple Social. I did want to bring up something that we kind of discussed on last week, and I should have been a little bit clear, so I'll take the L on that, about what something means to a community versus other. I'm a huge advocate when our counterparts talk about movies that mean something more to Black people, and they describe them, such as a review I saw recently of Concrete Cowboy describing the Strawberry Mansion portion of Philadelphia as the slums and as the ghetto, which is extremely insulting to working class people in that community. But I also feel as though that as a straight person, I'm speaking for myself, we have to do a better job of what something means to the LGBTQ community. I know Boys in the Band is not everybody's cup of tea, but again, I did some research just to make sure that I'm not speaking crazy. Martin Crowley created this not for us, the straight people. He created this for the LGBTQ, specifically gay men, because he felt as though he was tired of being the butt of the joke. And basically, that's who this community was molded. It was an important piece of work because for the first time, he saw gay life through the eyes of a gay person. And hence, this piece of movie may not be something that works for straight people or be on straight people's most important list. But if you do the research, it's on every LGBTQ must-see list. And I'm talking about the 1970 version of the film. So I just wanted to clarify that it's important that when we talk about things, it doesn't have to appeal for us. It doesn't have to be a big thing for us. But there is another community that it is important to, and we do have to respect that aspect of it.
All right, you also mentioned a little earlier before we flip it over to Sean that you are working on a project that you're almost finishing.
Yeah, it's a personal piece it's Latinx Heritage Month. It's a personal piece that I wrote for my daughter. It's for BuzzFeed, and it should be coming out shortly. It's basically what it's like to raise an Afro-Latina, and we discuss the topic of hair. Woo, child. And what, that is a very it's a tough subject in our community, not just as Black people, but as Latin people. And I'm really proud that we are doing more work presented by Afro-Latinos in this month, where we usually are asked to support our non-Black brothers and sisters while we are typically ignored.
Excellent. Sean, and then bringing it in is Sean Edwards.
Hey, what's up, man? Hey, thanks for inviting me back on the show. I'm Sean Edwards, Fox 4 News film critic, co-founder of the African American Film Critics Association. We also have big news coming from the Critics' Choice Association. I'll announce it here first. Some really, really big news.
Okay, all right.
It's been a fun week of watching movies this week. The Indies getting some shine. I love it. I'm here for it.
Indies definitely getting some shine. And then we have returning is Carolyn Hines.
Good morning, everyone. So So glad to be back. Thanks for inviting me, Reggie. What is going on with me? Took a short break off from doing any film criticism from writing, and I've been doing mostly again roundtables with Katia and you on the after roundtables and some podcast interviews from my own podcast. So here's what happening and Carolyn talks, and just watching a lot of Korean dramas and TV.
So every time that you mention your podcast, you seem like you're trying to do the thing where that at the end where they say it real fast and no one knows what you're saying. So
Oh,
could you at least let people know what the podcast is?
sorry, because I talk fast naturally, so sometimes I don't pick up on that. So I have technically two podcasts. One is called So Here's What's Happening. So that's a monthly podcast with me and my co-host, Lanisha Campbell, and we discuss our favorite film, TVs, and books slash manga um, picks of the month, and we give our pros and cons, and we discuss them a little bit in depth, and we discuss them from the perspective of Black female nerds. And then my sub podcast, Karen Talks, that's where I talk to industry insiders like directors, writers, producers, cinematographers, basically anyone who's willing to talk to me about the making of a film or the making of their film. And well, we were going to discuss the 40-year-old version today. So one of my interviews for Sundance was actually with Eric Bronco, who was a cinematographer for that film, and also Clement C. So I'm going to just plug that. And I've been doing
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm
yeah,
talking about.
and I have another interview that I did with Katia also for TIFF, and that one we discussed One Night in Miami, directed by Regina King.
So I just want to say that we have a filmmaker on the panel, and I don't think he's been on your podcast. And then how come I haven't been on the I don't understand what's up here. There's something just messing me up right now. But that's all right. Let's get into our first movie. It is Yellow Rose, and Katia, could you tell us what this one is about?
Really like this film. It's about a Filipina mother and daughter that are here illegally, and and the mother gets deported, and the daughter stays, and and how she struggles to survive, and through it finds her voice. Literally, she has aspirations to be a country music star, and I really like this.
So wait a minute. We're talking about a Filipino girl trying to be a country music star. Something messing me up here. For real?
Yeah, I mean, she liked country music since she was a little girl, and it just spoke to her, which I can totally understand because it's based in truth. Country music, if you listen to country music, is based on what's going on in people's lives, and so she's also an aspiring songwriter, and she has a beautiful voice, and so she uses music in order as her coping mechanism with what she's experiencing.
Yeah, there are a number of things that I liked about this film. One of them is that I always ask about the diversity within the diversity, meaning that let's not paint all black people the same. Let's not paint all Asians the same. And I like the fact that they showed a different slice of life and looking at this young girl, and particularly how she struggled with keeping her culture, but also kind of adopting some of the culture that she grew up with, as you were just talking about when it relates to country music. I like the fact that they showed her aunt who was living more of an assimilated life and showed her mom who was really struggling to try to stay here. I just like the fact that they showed all these little nuances. I will say that I was scared for her at one point in time in this film because something seemed a little creepy, and I won't give it away, but it seemed a little creepy. I thought she was about to be in a little bit of trouble here, but I like overall what they did with this. Sean.
No, this is a great movie. It's actually, I mean, you know what? They pulled off something that's very difficult to do because on the surface you would think this movie would be completely heavy. I mean, it's dealing with issues of immigration. You have a teen who has to fight for survival out here living on her own as she discovers her inner and outer self. And they do just a beautiful job of not beating you over the head with it. It just sort of like flowed naturally. It was easy to watch. It's a great coming of age story that deals with some very serious, timely issues that a lot of people in this country are dealing with right now. And they did a beautiful job of doing that. The music was dope. I like the use of the country music. the way that is woven in, the way that elements of country music is used as parts of the score. The fact that they actually used Dale Watson, who plays himself, was a great move for the filmmakers to add and lend some credibility, to the movie. And everything they did worked. It almost, at some point, although it doesn't feel heavy, some points of the movie are almost too light. But I'm not gonna knock it for that.
Yeah, see, I like what you just said, though. Sometimes, man, I hate what you say. You say it's a great movie. I be like, nah, you wrong. This is a great movie. I like this throughout. The way in which I review films is that I'll say what's to like and what's not to like.
Right.
I had nothing to not like about this. The characters were all interesting. Her journey was totally interesting to me. All the things that was happening to her along the way, and I was invested 100%. I was sitting over there just like biting my fingernails, like, oh, please let this girl, please let her succeed.
And it has a great title. I love movies with great titles, and none of the story rings false.
Katya, you said you really liked it.
I love that. I thought, first of all, it's good to see an immigration story that's not just centered on Latinos, because it is something that hits across a myriad of immigrants. You got to see how heartbreaking it is, you know what I mean, when families are separated, how they treat illegals, yes, you're in this country illegal, but you didn't kill anybody, but you still get treated like less than a third-class citizen. Also, her aunt, horrible. I'm like, you're letting this 15-year-old girl out into the world because your husband's a knob, and so you feel for her. But the music in this is gorgeous, and we're talking about music for the Oscars. This definitely, if nothing else, should be submitted for original song. I mean, you hope that this girl gets a chance to be center stage and sing her heart out. And his other thing too is with music, you either want to be that artist or you believe them. Mm. And with her, you believe the lyrics, you believe the whole songwriting process, everything. Like, you feel her heartbreak in these songs. And the young lady is just, this is just a gorgeous film. And this is one of those things where we're right now in a time where a movie like that will get appreciated. Whereas, unfortunately, I think if we were in regular times, it may have gotten lost.
Yeah, I think, Sean, you said that it was great that they let that they let him play himself in this film, and I totally agree with that. I also like the fact that they showed people who were allies, that they showed that there were people she needed some people to help her, and that we all do in our lives. And I like the fact that they did that. I felt that it was scary at times, it was heartbreaking at times, it was hopeful though, because you were just always hoping for her at all times. And I like the fact that the singing was not just about the country music though, because they kept the Filipino culture, and there's a scene where her aunt is singing that song to her cousin, and you could see her just crying and feeling great, just an absolute great scene. So I like this a lot. I'm telling people, definitely see Yellow Rose, not a red rose, not a green rose, not a black. See the yellow one, because this is it.
And you got to help people find it. You got to go out and find it. It's on VOD. It's not on one of the familiar platforms. It's not on a Netflix, Amazon Prime, or a Disney Plus. So you got to actively go and find this title, but please do.
Yeah, I'm going to, when I do my clip, I'm doing this clip today about this movie because people need to see this film.
Yes, they do.
I know, Carolyn, you didn't get to see it. That was Sean's fault, because Sean gave me the rep. And so if the rep didn't get back to you.
I thought I did an all reply.
No, I sent it to her. I sent it to her.
I saw the email bounce back, so I don't know if they were on leave or whatever. But the thing I will say about this film is I know of this film because it premiered last year at the Toronto Real Asian Film Festival and was on my watch list. but I wasn't able to get a screener. But I do know that it did get really good reviews from that film festival. So I'm glad that it's actually on people's radar now, because I was interested in it, because not only am I'm an immigrant, but also like country music is a big part of like West Indian culture. So I living in Canada, I know a lot of Filipino people, and I've met people like from different Asian communities and cultures. And like, I don't think North Americans in particular, especially white people, realize how strong people feel about country music as a whole. Like, I know Asian and Southeast Asian people love country music. So I was really looking forward to the film for just that aspect alone.
Well, just like both Katia and Sean said, the music in this is really good, and her voice is absolutely beautiful. All right, let's moving on. We're moving from, again, a young girl trying to find herself to a black guy who doesn't really know if he is himself. Sean, we're talking about Black Box. Tell us about this film.
Yeah, Black Box is part of a new sort of an anthology horror series presented by Blumhouse. And just off the top, that's sort of what helps this film, because in terms of recognizing what it is and drawing an audience, you're like, ooh, it's part of the Blumhouse anthology. But it's also what hurts this film. Because when you think of Blumhouse, you think of a certain style of horror, and this is way more sophisticated and way more intelligent than your typical Blumhouse movie. It's sort of like a Total Recall meets Get Out, and it deals with memory lost, or is it memory never had, or is it memory reconfigured?
Carolyn, you saw this one.
Yeah, I saw this film and I really liked it. It's very interesting, as Sean says. It's a very sophisticated type of horror, in the fact that it relies more on psychological and emotional connections to the characters rather than jump scares or just messing with you. And I think the director did a really good job in how none of the characters you're never really trusting of, except for the child. The only person I really trusted was that little girl, because his best friend Gary at one time was like, "You up to some shenanigans? I don't trust you either." And I like that. I like films where you're never sure who the villain and who the hero is. And like, as he mentioned, like, I've only seen 2 of the films so far in the Welcome to Blumhouse series, and the other one is The Light. But for this one, it really deals with morality and ethics, and it has to do with morality and ethics as a parent and morality and ethics as a doctor, because the doctor, played by Felicia Rashad, she just straight up unhinged. She crazy. And
don't tell him that. She's it's good to see doctors. We get to see black doctors. Come on.
No, I don't think saying that is actually a spoiler, because she makes you unsettled the first time you see her. Like, the first time you see her, there's just something about her that you don't trust.
And she was so good. She was so good.
She's really good, and I like that you just immediately feel weird about her, because like from the moment I'm like, you know what? That was me the first. I'm like, I don't, because I told I didn't read the synopsis because I wanted to go in completely, like, not knowing anything. So I didn't know I didn't know what the full plot line was. So I just saw her and I'm like, I don't trust you.
All right, so you didn't trust Katia.
I love Felicia Rashad in this. I love this renaissance in her career. Like, she has shown us these last 10 years, something that we all knew, but really put it to the use, is picking really interesting roles. And I think it's important to see Black women over the age of 60 working in diverse ways. And Felicia Rashad is out here just leading the way.
But did you trust the character?
No, I thought she was a little too eager to help, and she wasn't asking him anything about himself. She just wanted to put the device on him. And the other thing is, I won't give it away, but I'm like, ma'am, you're ignoring a whole part of your other situation here, and you're like, well, you can make something right. But I'm like, are you really like overlooking a very serious issue that this person has? And that alone lets you know too that she wasn't working with a full deck. But I want to talk about the little girl. The little girl is everything. Her name is
Naya Marie Johnson,
Christine, who played Ava. What a mature performance for such a young performer. She made it even work more for me because I feel like she was his guiding light. She was the one that kept him afloat. Also, I like the relationship between the two friends. Like his friend was like, I love when we see Black men fighting for one another in a positive way. His friend was like, wait a minute, something ain't right. Like, and he didn't just sit back, he took action. He was an active person. He was like, you're not thinking right. Okay, let me tie 2 and 2 together. I love how this was done. I didn't think it was predictable. I mean, I definitely was like, what? When a certain portion of this happened. And again, I love to see our folks doing something that is not stereotypical and occupying space. And I hope we get to see more of this. It was really good. I enjoyed it.
So Sean had me watch this thing in something called like the Black Box Experience, and I just want to tell you, I did not like the chat because the people were just too much. It was like, and they were trying to simulate like I guess if we were in the theater, so people were like, oh, this is gonna happen. I had to turn the chat off because
that was awful.
I couldn't do it, man. I was like, and so Sean sends me this message like, you supposed to interact. So I'm like, okay, let me interact. I'm like, heck no. I said, hecky no, I gotta watch this. But I think I know what they were trying to do there. I do like what you guys are saying as it relates to a sophisticated, because again, this is not the boo. Like somebody jumping out of the closet and they're scaring you, and then all of a sudden, it is different. It reminds me not of A Quiet Place in that how The Quiet Place is, but it reminds me of how The Quiet Place showed how horror can be different. Like this showed me how horror can be different, and because it really did play with your head. It reminds you obviously of The Sunken Place, because I felt like a number of times that we were in it. And Conti, when you talk about this whole issue of 2 Black men, I love that, is that the brother was there for his friend. I mean, he was there, but I actually agree with you too, Carolyn, is that I wasn't really sure, was he really there for his friend? They did a good job. And Sean, you said something like that it works, but it doesn't work because I guess where it is. Can you speak a little bit more to that? I didn't say it didn't work.
I said the fact that it's part of the Blumhouse series. Walking in, you're going to think one thing, and I think if this was a standalone movie, it would work even better.
Oh,
I didn't say it did not work.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
The association of Blumhouse leads you initially to think something before you start watching, and I think that kind of like penalizes it because it's totally different from the Blumhouse brand.
Well, one of the things that didn't work for me is that when he, again, it's not giving away the plot, but when he goes to someone's house and the woman lets him in, look, man, if I don't know you and you're coming up to my crib, I'm just telling you, you ain't getting in. I might talk to you through the peephole or something, but you ain't getting in the house.
That was the most unrealistic part of the entire film to me, because not only is she a Black woman, she's a Black woman, but she's also a Black woman with a child. And I'm like, there's no way she letting some strange man she don't know up in her house coming up with some ridiculous excuse. I'm like, nah, that ain't happening. I'm like, I'm man wrote this part. I'm like, for sure.
It ain't happening. But I think it did still help you figure out whether something was going to happen there from the horror perspective. So I think overall, I think they did a good job on this one.
It's not a great movie, but it's a really good movie.
Yeah, I left like, all right, Sean. Yeah, I'm not as mad as you.
That's the new way they're going to do this now. That's how you're going to do premieres now for the next couple of years. That's the blueprint.
You mean with the chat? Well, actually, that kind of worked for me in a way, because like I do live tweet. I do my live tweets every Saturday night. So I'm accustomed to watching something and tweeting about it. But what I will say is the chat was a bit distracting because it is on the screen. It's different when I have my phone. I can put on my phone.
Because you can look away.
But when it's on the screen, it's a bit distracting. And I only got involved in the chat because like my video was glitching a little bit, so I had to eventually minimize it so it would work. So I did. I had no other choice but to see the chat. But I did take part in in the events they had afterwards, and I thought that was really cool. Like if Amazon does that for continues doing it, I think it's a really good way to get people more interested in the films. And because we're all in quarantine, it's giving us something more to do than just like tweeting or whatever. It's more interactive, and like we can't go to escape rooms, so they give us an escape room.
Yeah,
it created some.
I like the way it created energy around the film in a virtual situation. Like the energy they created was really, really fantastic. I thought it was like genius level, setup. So I mean, like I said, that's the future.
It's really smart because
I didn't go to the
you didn't?
Not to that room. I went straight to the DJ room, and I know Katya went there too, because I was like, oh, sicky.
They were for a little bit, and then I had some work to do.
Okay.
But I turned off the chat because I do like to be focused in on what I'm seeing. Do you know what I mean? If I had seen it before, then it would have been a little bit easier. But I did, like I said, I did enjoy this, and like it's important. I think it also shows that, if you give us the opportunity to do something different, we're going to run with it,
Yeah, definitely. All right, that's that for that. So for our third movie for today is the 40-year-old version. This one is a woman turning about 40. She's trying to she's a playwright, actually an accomplished playwright, but she hasn't done anything of note in about 10 years. She's questioning her skills, she's questioning her gifts, and she's questioning her purpose. So she is out there actually floundering. Will she do another play? Will that play be done with some people that she's not really respecting? Or should she just turn to a different type of thing, like maybe rap or something like that? And in one of our episodes, I spit a few bars, and Sean's like, oh, okay, Reg, you gonna bring some back. I will tell you, there was a point in the film when, and I'll let you guys jump in here, but there was a point in the film when they did Mama, Mama, May I? Mama, may I? I thought for a minute I was about to spit some about my mom. I like this. This one is really quirky. The characters are quirky. The situations are somewhat weird. I mean, they have these things where they're talking to the camera at one point. They're doing some other things on the side. They got this homeless guy and some things happening. But I liked her journey. I think that her journey was universal, actually, for a lot of people trying to figure out, where am I? Where should I go? What should I do? And should I try something new?
Yeah, I like this movie a lot too. It's basically, if you get in your Wayback Machine, if you own a DeLorean, you can go back to 1986. I mean, it reminded me a lot of Spike Lee's debut. She's Got to Have It, where he unabashedly hit the scene with his own sort of style and vision and artistic touches. And that's exactly what she did with this film. It's fresh. It's original. The way it's written, it's uniquely her style, is uniquely her vision, and it's just a different way and a great way of telling a story that we haven't seen before. And it's unapologetically, gives you a glimpse of, a Black woman existing on her own terms and trying to figure out what she's going to do next, where she's going to go, how she's going to do it, and in a really clever and successful way. So it's a great filmmaking. It's a great film. It's a great debut.
I really like this one, Katya.
I love this film. I love this film straight out of Sundance. I got to give a shout out to my guy, TJ Adams, who's in this film, North Philly all day. And he's definitely, and also all the kids that are in the film are MCs, like he is. I loved everything. It's a beautiful love letter to hip hop. It's so New York. It's, she's from New York from the door, from everything, it's authentic. I love the fact that she brought in real elements of hip hop. She has MIA in this. She has Styles P. Styles P is hilarious in that little scene. And if you've been to New York and you've been on the bus, that's exactly how New Yorkers react. That's exactly how that would be, having Sadat X sell the instant oil, like all of those little touches, I think. And most importantly, I love the fact that she highlighted female MCs Like she brought in Babs. Those of you from making a band, but Babs is a legit MC, and just to show that underground scene, like you can tell she's a woman that's got her foot cemented in the culture. And I think that's it. This movie for me speaks to two different things: the importance of women in hip hop. We don't get our props, we don't get our due, and she put the women up front and center. And also her abilities as an MC are all believable. She can spit her head off, her face off. And I also loved the other important message. We in this country practice ageism, especially with women, like nobody's business. We tell you, we send a false message to our kids that if you don't have it figured out by 30, you're done. You know, and I think also, I hope it inspires more women. You know, I'm a woman at 40 who changed directions in my career, who left a very successful career in corporate America. And a lot of people said I was crazy. Why would I want to do that? So I'm always like telling people, we need a 40 and over list. We need a 50 and over list, because your life is not over. You know, for a lot of women, they have the freedom. They're done raising their kids. They're done doing this. They have the freedom to finally go after what they want to go after. And I think if nothing else, you take nothing away from this film. As a woman, know that you're the author of your own book. You don't control the beginning. You don't control the end, but everything in between is up to you. So I hope it inspires women to go out there and say, you know what, I don't want to do this. I want to pursue my passion. Also, I really like Rada as a person. There's no
Nah, I ain't like her.
She's the real deal, So I cannot recommend this film enough. And I'm glad that the world gets to see, like, we walked out of Sundance and we were like, this movie is everything. Like, we were so excited. And I'm glad that the world gets to see this beautiful piece of work.
Well, I'm glad about that. I will tell you that the fact that they brought out this sellout, am I a sellout for doing the stuff that I need to do, so I maybe at some point in time going to do the stuff that I want to do, was really, really interesting. What do you think about this one, Carolyn?
I love this film. I saw this at Sundance and I laughed from beginning to end. And I also got emotional because I connected a lot to like the loss of her mother. Like my mom is still alive, but my grandmother, who I was close to, like, when it reminded me of like how she died and how like I felt afterwards. And also I related a lot, like Kathy was saying, the change in direction, doing what you want to do and doing what you have to do. And like for me, I became a film critic 3 years ago. I was 35 and how old am I now? I was 34 years old, and I was like, and I have been just diagnosed with MS, and I was like, you know what? I have nothing else to lose at this point. Like, let me just finally go and do what I want to do. And I did it. Like people were telling me the same thing. People were like, you need to go find more. Well, you just got your diploma in paralegal studies. Why don't you go become paralegal? I'm like, listen, I can't handle that stress. I'm just gonna finally do what I've always wanted to do, which is film criticism. Decided to pursue it, and I'm here now talking to you guys. And so I related a lot to that aspect, and I just love, and I love that the film is unapologetically Black, and it's all unapologetically Black women, because the things that she does, like Black women would relate to. Like she looks at her face in the mirror, she wonders what to do with her hair. Should she wear a head wrap? Should she like gel her hair down? What should she do with her hair? And just like, and like wearing like even the cloths that she used for her hair, which is the tribal head wraps. I used to wear head wraps, and like I just related to her so much. And like I work with kids, and the interactions with those kids, I'm like, I've been there.
Yeah.
Children, whether they're toddlers or preteens or like 19, 18 years old, they don't care anything about your feelings. They will tell you, they'll be blunt and say, you ain't doing nothing. What are you doing with your life? And I just love that. And I love the music. It brought me back to like listening to hip hop music. My brother, who's 10 years older than us, like on Sunday mornings, we listen to like old school rap. We listen to like R&B. We listen to country music. I grew up with all kinds of music. So it just took me back to that. And I just love how at the end, Rada is who she is. And she's not going to apologize to anyone about that. And she's not going to let anyone call her sellout for pursuing her dreams. Like, if anything, she would be more of a sellout for not doing what she wants to do as a Black person. She would be a sellout for compromising who she is as a person. But it's interesting how people consider us to be sellouts if we do what they don't want us to do.
Yeah,
as long as we do what they want us to do, they don't consider us a sellout. But the moment we do what they don't want us to do, it's like, oh, you're abandoning your art. I'm like, who are you to determine what my art is?
I just can't believe we've gone this long in discussing this film and haven't talked about the best part of the film at all.
Go ahead,
mean,
Sean.
Oswin Benjamin, who's never acted before, was fantastic.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was just about to bring.
Who has never acted? Listen to me. He's never acted before. He's fantastic.
Fantastic.
He's the glue. He's the glue that makes this film work. Because if he doesn't work, this film derails.
It's true.
Funny derails. I got you, Sean. I got you. I was actually, that was really going to be my next point, is that I was going to speak. I loved his character. I loved it, and I loved it in relationship to a number of things that you guys were talking about. So, Carolyn, you talk about the head wrap, but it also showed the man's viewpoint on that. He's like, well, what's up with that?
Right.
Why are you doing all that? And for me, that really felt so authentic, because I would say to my wife sometimes, why are you wearing that? You don't need to. I like what you got. You don't need to hide that. I mean, now if you want to wear it, then that's cool. But I like it the way it is. And I liked his character. The writing for his character was good, but the way he played it was
the execution.
The way he played it, I believe that brother for sure. And sitting on the stoop, just chilling. And his quiet moments were the things that got me. Not when he didn't even have to say stuff. The way in which he moved and looked and all that.
His swag was his swag.
His swag was totally good. I'm saying this is, Dag, I hate agreeing with Sean. I say this is a great movie. No, I'm agreeing with Katya. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, Katya.
You're agreeing with all of us, because it's going to be really interesting to see where this film lands when it's time to start like handing out the hardware. Because
one of the issues that I do have with how this film was put out, this movie, like I'm telling, like I have friends who are journalists in hip hop. That community needs to be brought in, because, like I said, is everybody that's an actor other than the guy Archie and those people is an MC. So I don't understand why we're not speaking to the community. That is such an important portion of the film, and I think sometimes people don't understand. And also the fact that it's so New York. Like, I immediately lit up when I was like, wait a minute, is that Styles P driving the bus? And also the fact that he jumped into it. Like, he didn't have to do it. Like, there's no upside to Styles P being in this movie, but it's her, and because he believed in what she was doing. And again, I think also works because, again, that's who he is. Like, he's authentically playing somebody that he's very comfortable with. It's not like he's pretending to be a producer or an MC or understanding that thing. I totally, like, we all, like, again, if you covered hip hop, you've been told, oh, this thing is going to be dope. This is for uplifting for the community, and the person spits, kill, this, and you're like, the B word is for women, and you like, really? Yeah. So in that moment, I'm like, all of that works because, again, when you listen to the people who are from the community, and again, she's from the community, so she gave them the freedom to also bring that in. It doesn't come off as contrived or phony.
I totally agree. Go ahead,
Sean.
The
thing is, in terms of how this film will be celebrated in the end, I mean, I actually thought Rada did a better job of directing this than Regina King in One Night for Miami, but it's Regina King that's getting all the attention. I just like, where does this movie land? Ultimately, where does this movie land?
Yeah. Well, with that, I liked everything about it. I do think it's a great movie, and I'm glad everybody else likes it too. Because I was wondering if I was on my own. I was sitting there laughing.
This is one of those ones you got to spread the word.
Yeah. This is the movie. As soon as the clip hit end at Sundance, people were cheering, and I'm also happy to say that when it premiered, a lot of Black people were in the audience. So she felt the love, because in the end, I mean, I do appreciate her saying that, and she said that at our roundtable. She wants us, the community, to see it. And that's why I'm saying, if in order to push this movie forward, it's, to me, in my opinion, it's a mistake that the hip hop journalists, and I'm not talking about the nonsense people. I'm talking about the Hip Hop DX. I'm talking about the allhiphop.com. I'm talking about Two Dope Boys. They should have been in that conversation, because the audience that would
That's
appreciate this, they would have watched it because that's
They
where
still
they go for
can
their
though, but that's
information.
our job.
you're right.
Our job is to pick up where Netflix made the mistake, because that ship sailed because the movie's been released.
That's true. And so you said push forward. I got to push forward, and we got to move on to the next segment. Next segment is we got a couple of issues to talk about. First issue, theaters closing. The Regal closed their theaters, and then AMC said, "Nah, son, I'm gonna stay out there." Any thoughts on that?
We've been talking about this issue on this particular show now for months. I mean, the reality is the theatrical experience was in trouble before the pandemic. There are a bunch of our colleagues who fell for the Warner Brothers line that Christopher Nolan with his film Tenet was going to save movie theaters, which we talked about on this show as well, was a bunch of BS. I mean, if you understand the economics and the dynamics and the destruction that this pandemic has caused, particularly here in the United States, you knew that there was no way that was going to happen. You know, public concerns over safety have not risen to acceptable levels. There was just no way that the theatrical experience was going to survive the pandemic, survive technology, and survive the rising interest and popularity of streaming. And now you're seeing the end result. Now studios have not only pulled tent poles, they pulled and moved everything.
For me, what this pandemic exposes how little studios care about the audience. Because if they had cared, they wouldn't have made going to the cinema a priority. They would have found a way to compromise and make it more accessible for people. And the reason I say this is if you look, and we're going to all use Tenet, and let me explain what I mean, because we're all going to use Tenet as an example, and it's for a good reason. The way how they kept saying this film is going to save cinema, they're trying to leave it on the audience to save cinema, when it should actually be the studios who should be trying to save cinema, because the studios should be like, okay, we're in a pandemic, let us find a way to make this work once we get out of it. But they're leaving the guilt on the audience. And I'm like, listen to me, I love going to the cinema, but I'm immunocompromised. I'm not sacrificing my health or my sister's health for a film that's gonna last 2 hours. And once it's over, it's done. You're not gonna care about it, but I'm gonna be sick for no. What? I'm not gonna give my money to a studio who's placing their profit margin above my health.
The issue. The problem with the theatrical experience is not 100% the studio's fault. You got to remember, the studios have long been trying to negotiate a deal with the exhibitors on this day and date situation. If they would have agreed to this day and date situation a long time ago, both sides would be in a better financial position right now. A lot of the fault lies with the exhibitors. Also, exhibitors were told more than 3 decades ago that this whole idea of streaming was coming. The Blockbuster was told this as well. These exhibitors would not be in trouble if they would have followed the lead that Netflix picked up on and created their own content. That's why they're in trouble, because you shouldn't have to rely on the studios providing you content to keep your business model afloat. You got to remember, exhibitors are in the business of selling food. Studios are in the business of gathering eyeballs. There are 2 different business models that have relied on one another to a fault for a long time. And now that business model has been exposed because of the pandemic. But both sides have been warned that these changes in technology, the changes in public sentiment have been building for a really long time. And now they're finally being penalized because they're in a situation where they can do nothing about it because they didn't react back in the day.
Well, we're talking about being penalized. I'm gonna move on to the next subject. Katia, Cuties under a lawsuit. Did you see that?
It's ridiculous. I'm so sick of the evangelicals. I mean, it really is. And this is why, and I say this to people don't have a problem with God. People have a problem with religion. 2 different things. There are a ton of people that believe in God, are spiritual, pray, are amazing people, won't set foot in a church because of foolery like this, you know, and it's just, it's crazy. And it's just, and again, this movie has been so misrepresented. And again, meanwhile, you got some people in the congregation that are actual pedophiles that you're looking the other way, but you worried about a movie. And again, this is, did I miss something? This is America, not North Korea. If you don't want to watch something, you don't have to. This is not state-for-made television or 1984 where we got stuff blaring on our screens. You have the option to say No, but you don't have the right to tell me, you and everybody else, what they can and cannot see. That's where it starts getting a little. I don't understand how we constantly are screaming freedoms about a mask and a bunch of other stuff that literally could be saving our lives, but we want to censor this. You can't have it both ways. You want to have the freedom to carry a gun, the freedom to not wear a mask, the freedom to keep your business open during a pandemic, but then you want to control what people watch in the privacy of their own home. Make it make sense.
But I'll tell you for this, not only is it utterly ridiculous, but it's extremely racist, xenophobic, and misogynistic. And the fact that the white American evangelical church are the ones who are spearheading this whole movement to sue the director and to penalize this film exposes how much bigotry is in the community. Because if this was a white male director, one, they would not have any kind of issue with it. One, the fact that it's French and the director is a Black woman and it's about a Black girl, that exposes their racism and their bigotry and their xenophobia. Because let's not forget, these are the same idiots that after 9/11 were like talking about, oh, freedom fries, because they didn't want to eat fries because they're hot fries. Idiots. And then it also exposes the hypocrisy of it all, because as everyone's mentioned, Dance Moms has been on TV for how long? We had like that show about teenage pregnancies, and these are the same people who watch these same shows.
That's true.
And it exposes the hypocrisy of Netflix, because Netflix has allowed this to happen, because if they were worth their salt, they would have said, we will defend this film, we will defend this director, and we will not allow you to go. No, the reason I said they waited way too long. They started with that extremely horrible promotion that they did with the poster. That was their first stumbling block. And another thing that bothers me is I have not seen any American directors come forward to speak on behalf of this director. I have not seen Black, white, or Latina, Asian. I have not seen any director or filmmaker come forward and say, we will speak on behalf. If I'm wrong, let me know that.
That's the thing that bothered me, actually. That's the thing that bothered me about it, is that I think that the industry should have come behind them. More people in the industry be like, come on, guys, for real. We got movies that have worse content than this, and this is the one.
Way worse. And nobody said anything about Larry Clark when he released Kids. I mean, it's.
And there's that
new film with Mel Gibson as Santa Claus. I'm like, he's a racist, misogynistic bigot, and this film is gonna made. And I'm like, these films are getting made, but I haven't seen anyone step forward to speak about this film or about sex.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. We got to get just to the last thing, because we got the last subject. I know we got to get out of here, and the last one is Jamie Foxx as Electro. I'm excited. I'm excited to see Jamie Foxx as Electro. Somebody on this show said that Jamie Foxx is like the greatest actor ever. I don't know, but okay, I will tell you that
I said it, and he can do more types of roles than anyone working in the biz right now. Like, who is it? Who's his competition? Like, who can do funny? Who can do serious? Who can do biopics? Who could do like superhero movies? I mean, who is it? He did get nominated for 2 Oscars in the same. He's the only African American to get nominated for 2 Oscars in the same year in the acting categories. I mean, who else?
So are you looking forward to this? Because I am.
No.
Oh no, for real?
I don't like comic book movies. No, I don't care. I'll watch them. No, I'm not. You said, am I excited? No, I'm not excited. I'm glad he's getting the dough, but I'm not excited.
Katya.
He needs it. I mean, he again, I've said this before. My issue with Jamie Foxx is that he just picks bad. He's very talented, but he's been in some trash. So he needs this movie to get him back to where he needs to be. And I think in terms of opportunities, and the list goes on and on, because he's way too talented. And I'm just like, he needs somebody to help him pick scripts. Not everybody is good at choosing for themselves. And I think that's what his weakness is, and that's why his career is so, up and down. But I do think this will help, and this will, because they have the money, and this will put him back in front of an audience, will give him more leverage. These movies make money.
Yeah, no, they do.
Because you have a built-in audience, and it's just a really, and also hopefully they'll give him a good script, they'll give him a cool costume, and he'll get to do some fun stuff. But I mean, I'm happy for him. But he definitely, because
Yeah, Will Smith are very
But he already has the leverage, which is why he got the role. You're not gonna get his role.
No, he doesn't have the leverage because he is not the box office draw that he used to be, because he's picked poorly. But this will help him, but he does have enough of a name and buzz for people to want to see him. But he's never had that. That's the thing, like we talk about comparison, Denzel has that. He can open up a movie, he can put butts in the seats without needing other people. But Jamie is, although Jamie is super talented, he doesn't have that because he's picked poorly. I stand by that all day, all night.
Denzel's solid box office. Denzel can't do comedy, and Denzel can't do superhero movies.
But he makes money, which trumps all the other stuff.
Right. But Katya, you'll say in a minute that don't chase the dollar, and so I'm just saying, yeah, he makes
this particular point, but he's been chasing the dollar. He's just been chasing the wrong dollar. But I do think this will help get him out of that rut. And again, I stand by this all day. He needs help in picking roles.
Okay, well, we gonna get him a manager. Look, I need help too because we're over time. I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic. This is the Real Critic Roundtable with Katya Woods, Sean Edwards, and Carolyn Hines. We'll see you next time. We out.
Boom.